Okay, so here we are in the room that will eventually become the pod, my custom flight deck for Microsoft Flight Simulator in my basement. And the first thing that I'm going to do, other than stripping a few things off the walls here, you can see it's fairly stripped already. I'm going to take all these counters and things out eventually and basically strip the thing back to the bare walls and build a dedicated flight deck in here. But the first thing I'm going to do is unpack all my hardware, the things that came today, the components from Newegg. It's like Christmas in October around here. So I'll go through these components one by one and give you an idea of what this computer is going to be made up of. To bear in mind, this machine is going to be for running FSX only. I'm not going to run any business apps on it. I'm basically just going to leave it down here, have it drive my flight deck when I'm ready to kick back and have a little relaxation. So the biggest part about this thing by far, of course, is the computer case itself, the tower. For this one I chose an Antec 900. It's a big old beast. Here's the box, here's the actual tower, still with its packing in it. It's a big case, it's a wide case. There's a lot of room to move around in there. And the thing I'm loving the most about it are these fantastic fans here. There's 3 fans in this thing that are like the size of dinner plates practically. And I'll give you a closer look at the case here in just a minute. Let me get it unpacked. Okay, so here's the case in all its naked glory, completely empty of any kind of guts. You can get a good look around it here. This is actually a really slick looking piece of hardware. It's got these grates here in the front that are all sort of see-through, and I'm gonna, I assume, be able to remove these panels as I add components like the CD, excuse me, the DVD drive. This is kind of cool. Up on the top of it here, we've got our FireWire and a couple of USBs, sound ports, reset, and the start button. So that's cool. It's right there on the top. I was planning on putting this next to me, just to my right when I fly, so it'll be handy to have that button on top where I can reach it. And of course the all-important see-through panel here in the side, which I guess the real hotshot overclockers love. I'm not going to spend a whole lot of time staring at the inside of my computer, but I guess it's fine to have it open like that. And I don't know if we can get around here and see the back of it, but yeah, pretty much your standard stuff in the back. Power supply is separate. We'll get into that in just a minute. And there's one fan, huge fan here. And then looks like there's actually 2 fans down here. I don't know if you can see them. So I'm expecting this thing to run fairly cool. I want to stuff it with a lot of fairly hot hardware, so let's hope. Anyway, let's take a look at what else we got here in the box. Okay, here are all the other goodies that came from Newegg today. I'll just pull things out in no particular order, show you what the guts of this system are going to be like. So, here we got our Core i7-950. This is not the very hottest processor you can get, but it fits beautifully the philosophy that I'm working with this system, which I'm basically trying to build a fairly budget system that'll get the best performance possible out of FSX. I've had a lot of advice and help from buddies, people that know a bit about hardware, so hopefully this is going to go together well. For cooling, we've got our Cooler Master Hyper N520. It's a big old brick. Got another fan on the back there, big old block of fins. I've had good luck with aftermarket coolers with other CPUs, so I'm hoping this one works out well. Let's see. Oh, this is a beast. How about your Corsair TX650 650 watt power supply? Okay, I opened this earlier. I got to admit, I cheated a little bit. But check this. I don't understand why this has to be, but once you pull back all the cool black packaging, the power supply has its own cloth bag. Now, if anybody can tell me why a power supply needs its own duffel bag, I have no idea. But boy, it's pretty slick. Makes you feel like you bought something worth something anyway. We'll see. That's probably the least sexy part of any system is the PSU. Alright, here's the motherboard. Came highly recommended. The Asus Sabertooth X58 motherboard. Ought to do the job. We'll get into that more in a little bit. I'll show you when I put it in. Let's see. Driving the video. Okay, here's another budget component. Not the hottest by any means, but supposedly a good card. It's an MSI N460 GTX NVIDIA card. I hear great things about this card. I've got a GTX 285 in my computer upstairs, and they're fairly comparable in terms of clock speed, but every benchmark that I've seen so far listed online, this pretty well blows it away. And it's about half of what I paid for the 285, so high hopes for that. Let's see, boring stuff again. We've got the generic, well, it's not generic, it's just Sony, but the OEM DVD writer. I was super pleased to see that it had a black bezel on the front of it, so that'll look good with the case. Black front. Let's see, memory wise, we're going to go with 6 gigabytes of Crucial Ballistics. This is your PC3, excuse me, 1600 DDR3 RAM, 3 sticks, 2 gigs each. I hear with the i5, i7 range they prefer memory in 3s, so there you got it. 6 gigs ought to do the job now. I'm going to be loading it down with my copy of Windows 7 64, so we can actually take advantage of all 6 of those gigs. And then here's the most fun thing. This is the biggest splurge I went for. Finally, these things have gotten cheap enough. The machine's going to feature 2 solid-state drives. No hard drives, no traditional hard disk drives at all. 2 solid states. I've got a 160 gigabyte that's going to hold the operating system, and that's the 60 here. These are G-Skill Phoenix Pros. Came highly recommended on Newegg. And I've got a 60 gig for the operating system and 120 gig that's going to hold all my flight sim stuff. That should be more than enough. I've got a fairly loaded down setup right now that only takes up about 60 gigs. So that gives me another 100 to play with. So anyway, those are the goodies. I've assembled the motherboard, put the CPU in with the heat paste. We've got this big Cooler Master chunk here. Let's see, I think it's really quite a brick. That took me the most time so far. It probably took me half an hour to figure out how the clips go on it and how it goes in there. Not because it was a bad design, but just because it was the instructions were in 6 languages, and I'm sure equally opaque in all of them. But I managed to figure it out. So we got our 3 memory modules in here, looking good. Cooler's on, and now we're going to take it and stick it into the guts of our case here. Standoffs are already lined up and ready to go, so we're moving on. Okay, we're moving right along here. We've got our power supply put into the cabinet, and we got the motherboard all mounted up in there nicely, and I'm just working on putting the drives in right now. Yeah, I thought it was really interesting. The level of packaging has gotten pretty intense on these things. This is kind of hard to tell from the video probably, but this really nice black cardboard book style case, instructions in the whole thing for the solid state drive. I realize it's a silly thing, it doesn't mean anything, we'll probably never see the package again after this, but I thought it was kind of cool that they're packaging everything so extremely well now. I'm sure my wife could even get some use out of this for an art project or something, but anyway, guts of the thing, we're just about to put the solid state drives in, and then I'll finish hooking up all the connectors. Okay, here we are. Its system is pretty well together. Had a little bit of a hold up last night when I was building it. The little railings that hold the solid state drive in here, that fit inside these drive holders, the screw holes were too small in the drive holder to fit through the rails here. Or rather, the screw holes were too small and the screws wouldn't fit in them. So I had to go to the hardware store today and pick up some new ones. But that having been done, it's in pretty good shape. Here's the whole system. We're just about to do the initial power on. Fingers crossed. This is always the scary moment. And see what happens. One thing that drives me a little bit nuts about this system, you can see things are in pretty good order here. This is a big case. There's plenty of room for the components. Should be good airflow through here. But darn it, the wires are there's still just a tangle of them. Every computer I build, I hope I can bundle up the wires really tightly and make them tidy and kind of route them around the side of the case or whatever. And it just never seems to be the case that it's possible. I got these kind of tied together as best I can up here as they ascend up through the case. But down here in the bottom, it's just pretty much spaghetti. You know, it's sitting in there loosely. Nothing is contacting anything that'll get too hot. So I'm not going to worry too much about it right now. It'll be closed up pretty soon anyway, and I won't see it again. All right, you ready to power this baby on? Let's see what happens. Okay, run down the checklist right quick. CPU is installed, cooler's installed. The cooler is hooked up to the CPU fan slot there. I got my RAM sticks installed in the correct slots. Got the motherboard power, the large power adapter here. We got the small power plug, power, both PCIe power plugs to the video card are in. Power supply is turned on. You can probably see I've already got an LED in there glowing, so motherboard is getting power. And got my monitor, got my wireless keyboard here, wireless mouse, and right up here on the top is the little sending unit for the wireless USB unit. Alright. Power on the monitor. And press the power button here. Let's see what happens. Alright. Nothing happened when I turned on the power. Okay, that's the kind of thing that happens when you're system building. So now I got to jump in here and figure out what I forgot to connect or what the problem is. Oh, there's the culprit. The power switch itself gets attached to this little, Asus provided this great little plug-in where you can plug all these little individual plugs into one master block and then plug the block into the keyboard or into the motherboard, and somehow in moving these cables around I managed to unplug this, so the motherboard had no way of knowing that I was trying to turn it on. So I'll plug that back in, power off, power on, see if we can get it going. Okay, it's plugged in again. Check to make sure our power is on here. Got our LED on, so once again I'm gonna hit the power button. Let's see what happens. Ah, there's a good sign. Boy, look at those, look at that RAM strobing. I don't know why that's fun, but it is. Question is, oh, we got a signal. Hit delete. Alright, I think we're in business. I'm gonna hit F1 to run setup here, and we'll start setting things up. So anyway, wish me luck. Yeah, you can't see it, but it's working on the Windows 7 install. Expanding Windows files, coming up on 56%. Pretty smooth, pretty flawless so far. You got the case on here, got the covers on the side of the case rather. Got your HAL 9000 action happening in there with the RAM. Lights going like mad. All the fans seem to be turning, so I'm pretty happy about that. I would say so far, so good, at the risk of jinxing things. We're doing alright. Alright, everything's humming along beautifully. I've got Windows loaded, got it all patched up, got all my motherboard drivers loaded, flashed the BIOS to the latest version. Pretty much ready to start building the full FS setup here. So anyway, thanks for sticking with me through all this. I'm pretty excited about it. I think it's going to be fun to get it all together and working. And I'd like to especially give a big shout out, a big thank you to Ted from the Sim Outhouse forums. It goes by TX Netcop over there. He's really been my main tech guru when it comes to putting all this together. Gave me an idea about the best components to buy. Probably saved me a ton of money in the process. So thanks a bunch, Ted, and you guys could definitely do worse than to go over, drop by simouthouse.com and give Ted a holler if you want to build a new system. Anyway, onward now to loading FS and starting to build out this whole room.